Let's talk about the four main qualities, according to fight master Fiore Dei Liberi from the 1400s, that make a good fighter. The first quality that Fiore uses is represented by the lynx. Now, the lynx is basically a type of large cat, a bit like also the lion, the tiger, which are also used by Fiore in the four. So with 3 out of 4 being large cats, I guess he likes cats. I don't know. But what I do know is that the lynx in this case represents judgment. Now the judgment is, especially since you see in the original picture, the lynx is actually holding a mathematical compass, and it's representing, for the most part, 2 distinct things: the distance and timing in a fight. So the distance is pretty obvious. It's like if I was trying to cut this camera off the stand, it's obvious I was out of measure, excuse me, again out of measure to do that. That's part of the distance, but it goes more complex than that. You know, certain things like if you're doing certain extreme lunges, or if you're perhaps in a range where you could actually just go with a sideways movement, someone might be chasing you, you could be moving back as you do an attack or defense. All sorts of things can be done in all sorts of different and complex ways, and it requires a good judgment to know how and when to do that, because a lot of beginners and people who aren't experienced in any kind of fighting tend to get their measure wrong. And I've seen this a lot, people who, for example, think they're in range and are perhaps reacting, and then they'll start attacking and they'll just swing at the air, or even they'll be trying something that's a distance action. Like for example, in one of my sparring videos, someone was going to try to do a cut at me when actually I was closing into grappling range, so where I was able to grab their arm and throw them down to the floor. That's the difference in distance. One person is trying an action that they're too close to do, and I did the action that was in the correct measure. Not to say I'm perfect at distance, but that's just one example from one particular session of sparring. It's that idea of knowing what actions you can do at what distance. Whether you're at a distance where you're going to need to lunge or step in to do some kind of cut or thrust, whether you are in range enough already and might want to close in, go out, do all kinds of things, or whether you're in a range where actually you can't use your weapon that effectively, try some sort of grappling and wrestling, that sort of stuff. Then of course all the different weapons as well. So beyond that there is also the timing. So if I quite simply have something like a sword, here it is, I'm going to execute a cut, bam, there's a certain amount of time I take to do that. No matter how slow or fast I am, it is going to take a certain amount of time for me to get from here, my ready position, to here, the I just cut you open position. And with that amount of timing, a person can use that judgment to think about what they can do. It's one of the things where people sometimes look at certain things in martial arts and might assume that all types of martial arts are just rubbish. Because what sometimes happens is you get certain people trying to demonstrate certain techniques, or actually are, peddling incorrect and fake techniques, and it becomes obvious even to a casual observer because of timing. They'll say, I can do this step 1, and then this step 2, and step 3, and step 4. And of course anyone with a good mind is going to be sat there going, well, in all the time it took to do that, why isn't the other guy doing something in response? That is timing. If someone, for example, cuts at me, bam, like that, I might be in here, and I might have just enough time to go, bam, parry it, and then as I'm doing that, I'll go, bam, riposte. Each of those actions takes a certain amount of time, and with a good judgment, you'll know what you can and can't get away with doing, and that actually tends to help avoid getting things like what are called doubles. Doubles and afterblows are something that we use as a general term. It means where 2 people hit each other or do something, like stab each other, cut each other, throw each other to the ground, but they do it to each other. So if it was a real fight, both of them would be injured or dead. Now with a good judgment, that ensures that you know what things you can do and get away with without the opponent responding to you. So maybe someone cuts, I parry, I riposte, and I step out of there. So then I've delivered that riposte, and then I'm thinking I've just enough time to get and walk out of there before they try something else to cut me open. And with that effective use of timing, I'm making sure to capitalise, using that window of opportunity to do something like a parry, which will be quicker than the opponent's strike, do a riposte and get out of there quicker than the opponent can do some other riposte. Obviously, it's never going to be perfect. There are always going to be things that an opponent can think of that are quick and good ways to react to you, and maybe change other things going on where you have to predict what's happening. But at least with those qualities of the LYNX, the idea of good distance and good timing, you should at least be able to make yourself a lot safer in the actions that you're doing by judging the distance and the timing, thinking I can do these things in this amount of time at this range, and then try to make sure the opponent doesn't do the same back to me. And that is the quality of the LYNX. And see you in the next video about the rest of the qualities.